just doing what comes naturally. How bad can I be? I'm just following my destiny. How bad can I be? I'm just doing what comes naturally. How bad can I be? How bad can I
Number
possibly
6.
be?
The retooling of Cool World. If you were lucky enough to see my last review, then you should know that my memories from this film aren't particularly fond. What you may not know is that this movie could have turned out 100% different. The original plot of Cool revolved around a half-human, half-cartoon character named Debbie Dowse who sought to kill her father for causing her to exist. Okay, that sounds really weird, but interesting at the same time. If they would have just stuck to that plot and put some effort into it, might have turned out to be a decent film. But sadly, after director Ralph Bakshi began production on the film, executives rewrote the script in secrecy before handing it back to Bakshi, and the potentially interesting horror/thriller story mentioned earlier ended up becoming the piece of crap that it is today. Really, Bakshi? You didn't notice anything different about the screenplay that you wrote?
Buster, this is gonna be the biggest disaster the Cool World has ever seen. Stop!
Kim Basinger requested the movie be toned down for a more kid-friendly audience. Did she succeed? Well, sort of. The movie was originally going to be rated R. The singer insisted it be rated PG. They compromised with PG-13. Yeah, they probably should have stuck with Drew Barrymore. Considering her condition at the time, I really don't think she would have given a damn. As production of the film kept changing and changing, Cool just kept getting worse and worse. Hopefully everyone learned from their mistakes, as the film bombed massively and got generally negative reviews from critics. Overall, it's fair to say that Cool would be better off called Fool World.
There's a principle in nature that almost every creature knows, called survival of the fittest. And check it, this is how it goes. The animal that wins gotta scratch and fight and claw and bite and punch. And the animal that doesn't, well, the animal that doesn't winds up someone else's lunch.
Number
I'm
5.
just saying.
The Censorship of South Park episode 201. It's about time we got some TV show examples. Anyway, due to copyright issues and the fact that I can't download a halfway decent copy of this episode, I really can't go into much detail about this one without showing any footage, so here's what I want you to do. In the description there's a link leading to this episode, so if you go ahead and watch that and then do some research on Wikipedia in order to figure out what's wrong with this. All you really need to know is that all the censorship in this episode was caused by the executives at Comedy Central. I'm sorry to have to do this. I really wanted to go into detail about this, but it's not really possible for me to do. I apologize, I'm so sorry, but let's just move on to the number 4 spot, okay?
How bad can I be? I'm just doing what comes naturally. How bad can I be? I'm just following my destiny. How bad can I be? I'm just doing what comes naturally. How bad can I be? How bad can
Number
I possibly
4.
be?
The poor treatment of American Dragon Jake Long. When it comes to Disney Channel, even the dumbest of people could agree that its live-action programming, for the most part, sucks ass. Its animated programming, however, is more along the lines of hit and miss. Sure, there were a few of them that were actually pretty bland and forgettable, but at the same time, there were also shows that were actually pretty good. One of these shows was American Dragon Jake Long. While not the best of cartoons, American Dragon was a decent watch. The show revolved around Jake Long, a New York teenager who had the incredible ability to turn into a dragon. With the help of his friends, his grandpa, and a talking dog, Jake uses his dragon powers to protect the mythical creatures of the city from such threats as the Huntsman, a leader of a large group of dragon slayers devoted to destroying all magical creatures. One of which, unbeknownst to Jake, is his love interest Rose. From that basic summary, one might be able to see why this show works. While it did have the typical Disney Channel stereotypes here and there, the show managed to make itself unique by having a fantasy style that had been little used in other Disney shows. Oh, and for all you Avatar fans out there, the 2 voice actors who play Zuko and Katara on the show also play the 2 main characters in this show. If you like Avatar, then chances are you might like this show too. Unfortunately, the only thing executives liked about the show was trying to make changes to it. to which the creators fought hard to prevent from doing so. Some of the stupider requests included making Jake wear a helmet while flying and having him only breathe fire into a fireplace. I'm guessing executives thought that children would try to imitate these acts, because, you know, flying and breathing fire are such easily imitatable acts. Seriously? Luckily, the creators managed to ward off the executives for the most part. That is, until Season 2 came about. And yes, I am aware of the change in art style and redesigns of some of the characters, but that's the least of my concerns right now. I'm going to focus mainly on the episode Homecoming, because that's the episode that was probably tampered with the most. Executives really trashed this one, changing it from a 2-part episode to a single, writing out the death of one of the characters, the list goes on. But by far their dumbest decision had to be at the end of the episode. Oh, for those who haven't seen the show, I'm going into spoiler territory, so you may want to skip this part. Near the end of the episode, the Huntsman had acquired all crystal skulls, no connection, that would enable him to rid the world of dragons. However, Rose managed to stop him before it was too late by instead having all destruction of the Hunts clan. Realizing that this would mean Rose would also go away, Jake wishes at the last minute that Rose was able to live a normal life. This is where the executive meddling takes place. Originally, Rose was supposed to stay in New York, but instead they changed it so that Rose was relocated to Hong Kong. Why? Because apparently they thought that the viewers that didn't watch the episode would be confused later on. Isn't that what reruns are for? It's simple logic, really. If you air an episode again, then people who missed the previous airing would have another chance to catch up. It's what happens when your show has ongoing story arcs. You have to have re-airings in order to satisfy all your viewers. But hey, considering the show was almost at the end of its run anyway, I guess it really doesn't matter. That's another thing. The show was cancelled rather prematurely in my opinion. From what I've heard, the series was supposed to have at least 2 more seasons and maybe a live-action film adaptation or 2. But nope, Disney Channel wanted it out of the way as soon as possible. Not only did the last 3 episodes have their air dates dragged out over several months in different time slots for each, but the series finale actually got less advertising than High School Musical 2, which had already been airing for 1.5 months. What the hell were these guys thinking? This was not a great show, but you know what? It deserved better treatment than what it got. Not much else to say, except I really hope those executives got fired. No pun intended.
There's a principle in business, that everybody knows is sound. It says the people with the money, make this ever-loving world go round. So I'm bigger in my company, I'm bigger in my factory, I'm bigger in my corporate sign. Everybody out there, you take care of yours, and me, I'll take care of mine.
Number 3. The Season 3 transition of Gargoyles. On the bright side, if American Dragon was given another season, considering the amount of executive meddling it was already receiving, it probably would have turned out something like another Disney TV show, Gargoyles, subtitled in Season 3, The Goliath Chronicles. First of all, I should point out that series creator Greg Wiseman and much of his crew from the first 2 seasons was fired after the show transitioned from prime time to Saturday morning, and as the executives took over, the show just got worse and worse. Where to begin? Oh, I know. First of all, Xanatos is no longer the bad guy. And 3, 2... Poor Darth Vader. Xanatos was his favorite fictional villain. That's right, people. Xanatos transitioned from being your one step ahead of everything mastermind to a full-time friend of the Gargoyles. In fact, a lot of those first 2 season villains began appearing less and less. There was less Macbeth, less Savarius, even Nimona had a major role in only 1 episode of the 3rd season. So who's the main bad guy then? The answer is a group of clansmen targeting the Gargoyles known as the Quarrymen, led by John Castaway. Are they anywhere near as interesting as the other villains? No, they are not. In fact, a friend of mine recently ranted about why the Quarrymen suck so much. Here's the rant.
I genuinely, on a personal level, do not like them. Like, here's the thing. All the other villains, they're evil, yes. But you take into account two things. One, they have either redeeming qualities about them, or two, in the back of your mind, you are fully aware that these guys are totally and completely fictional. There aren't really CEOs that go around trying to take over the world. There aren't really voodoo witch doctors who go around stealing people's souls. There aren't really, evil witches that go around killing princesses. But the thing is, the Quarrymen were too realistic for my taste, in the fact that the Quarrymen are depicted as just normal everyday people who saw something as a threat to their way of life and as something that was evil and inferior, and decided to radicalize and get rid of them. And that reminds me far too much of things that really happen in real life. Because, if you guys remember in Gargoyles, the thing about the Quarrymen is that they are trying to kill the Gargoyles. That's one thing. But there are several times in the episodes where they just do not take anyone else into account. They blew up a building to try to kill them. Didn't care if anyone else got hurt. They placed a bomb in the Gargoyles' home, which is also located in the New York City Police Department, almost killed everyone there. They personally almost killed Elise at one joint. And there was even at the series finale, I think it was, they tried to hijack a train and have it crash into the side of a mountain. Killing everyone on board was their plan, but it was for the greater good of destroying the Gargoyles. And those guys remind me way too much of certain groups in real life that would do the same thing.
And that is just tipping the iceberg, people. Not only did the characters get weaker, but the plots got weaker too. Instead of the complex and interesting plot lines that we had during Season 1 and Season 2, Season 3 just turned the show into After School Special, the series, dealing with such issues as running away, disabilities, oh hell, there's even an episode titled Broadway Goes to Hollywood. Just has the word stupid written all over it, doesn't it? So yeah, thanks to idiot executives, Gargoyles went from awesome to incredibly lame. To this day, fans of the original show continue to pretend that the Goliath Chronicles never existed, and I don't blame them at all. Just goes to show that when you try to fix something, in this case an awesome show, that wasn't broken the least bit.
Ever hear you say smog, you little smoke? Schlappity schlap. Complain all you want, it's never ever 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 gonna stop. Come on, how bad can it possibly be?
The over-devotion of Nickelodeon to SpongeBob. This one is a bit different from all the other examples, as it seems that the executives are perfectly fine with what they have. The show is popular and it's bringing in a lot of money. So what is their flaw? Simple. They devote much of their work to it. Way too much of their work, if you ask me. Now, as a kid, I loved SpongeBob, and even today, what the show gave me back then still holds up very well. Unfortunately, the fact that SpongeBob is still on the air annoys me. Why? First of all, they air the show on TV way too much. If Nickelodeon isn't airing one of its lower quality TV shows, chances are that it's showing SpongeBob. Don't believe me? Scroll through your TV guide and look at the Nickelodeon schedule. Tell me that SpongeBob is not on for at least 4 to 6 hours per day. No, I mean, geez. Even if it was the greatest show ever, SpongeBob shouldn't be airing that much. Once or twice a day is fine. 8 to 10 times a day is not. And don't get me started on the amount of merchandising that has been produced. The fact that SpongeBob's popularity has been abused to death has been noticed by just about everybody, even the makers of the show itself. There's an episode of SpongeBob that I'm particularly fond of that involves Mr. Krabs turning SpongeBob into a marketing icon to sell Krabby Patties and going way too far in the process. Gee, does that sound familiar at all? Second, as annoyed as I am with the insane amount of attention given to SpongeBob, I would forgive it partially if the show was at least getting better. But the thing is, it's not. In fact, if you ask any SpongeBob fan, then they'll tell you that the show is just getting worse ever since the release of the movie in 2004. The stories aren't interesting, and the characters have been mostly reduced to one single character trait, like Patrick's stupidity, Mr. Krabs' greed, and the less I say about SpongeBob, the better. The series has sunken so low, none pun intended, that even Steven Hillenburg, show creator, claims the movie to be the true series finale, acting as if what followed never existed. I feel the same exact way. If the people on the top weren't so obsessed with money, then they could see when a show starts to go bad, then it needs to end. I mean, take a look at the Rugrats, for example. As much as I love that show, I can see why it ended. It was getting old and people are beginning to notice. Nickelodeon doesn't seem to notice this happening to SpongeBob, or if they do, they really don't seem to care due to how much money the character is bringing in. All I can say is, I think we can all agree that SpongeBob needs to end. Pronto. I mean, aren't there other shows that are worthy to be paid attention to? Okay, what else? Are you kidding me? God, I really wish they would start airing the shows from the 90s again. Thank you! Thank you. Oh wait, it's on late at night. Crap.
How bad can I be? I'm just building the economy. How bad can I be? Just look at me petting this puppy. How bad can I be? A portion of proceeds.
And the number one biggest executive mistake in regards to the animation industry is
Let's see.
the kidnapping and murdering of the thief and the cobbler. There are not enough words to describe the sheer horror of what happened here. Even as I speak, my own mind struggles to find the right words to describe what happened here. So I guess it would just be easier to explain what happened. In 1964, Canadian animator Richard Williams began production of what would later turn into The Thief and the Cobbler, a film which Williams intended on being one of the masterpieces of animation. The only problem was that Williams lacked the money to create the film. So as Richard improved his animation skills, he put the project to the side to gain funding by directing other films, some great, others not so great. After Williams finished working on and winning 2 Academy Awards for Who Framed Roger Rabbit in 1998, he finally managed to land a deal with Warner Brothers to distribute the film. And what should have been his dream come true ultimately became his worst nightmare. When Richard showed a rough cut to the Warner Brothers, they were completely unsatisfied with it, and so what did they do? They backed out and pulled their funding. With the money gone, the Completion Bond Company kicked Williams off the project. Let me say that again. A guy who works 20 to 25 years on what should be his masterpiece gets kicked off of his own project. Do you guys see anything wrong here? Why did they take away the film, you ask? Well, several reasons exist, such as Williams not making deadlines, but one of the biggest reasons was that they wanted it to be closer to a Disney movie in order to make the film more marketable. That's right, people. We lost one of the greatest films of all time just so we could have yet another cheap Disney knockoff. Again, I must say this. Do you guys see anything wrong here? As you probably guessed, Williams' absence caused the final project to take a huge turn for the worse, especially when Miramax got American distribution rights. How so? First of all, the animation got really bad. You can easily tell the difference between the animation done by Williams and the animation done by the Bond Company. Second, the film's main characters who were originally mute were given voice actors, with the thief being voiced by Jonathan Withers and the cobbler attack being voiced by Matthew Broderick. Jonathan Winters starts out as okay, but gets really annoying fast, while Matthew Broderick is completely unnecessary. Third, the Princess Yum Yum was turned into your typical 90s heroine. You know, the one who's tired with her life and wants more out of it. Yep, Yum Yum for you. Wouldn't mind too much if she was actually an interesting character, but obviously she's not. Fourth, the additional musical numbers. Listen to these lyrics and tell me if there was any effort put into them.
I sense in all his silences more than his words could say.
Don't fight your feelings, says my heart. A heart I will obey. Am I feeling wrong?
Did that make any sense? At all? I'd go on, but I think it's pretty clear that the final cut of this movie is just crap. Luckily, the Bond Company and Miramax got their just desserts, as the film bombed big at the box office and got mediocre reviews from critics. And to this day, Richard Williams refuses to acknowledge the film's existence. A couple of years ago, a re-editing of the film closer to Williams' original vision called the Re-Cobble Cut was released, and while it is so much better than the Miramax cut and worth the watch, it still doesn't fill in the seat of a full film. I've also heard talks of Roy Disney recreating the film, but ever since his passing, I doubt that's still happening. So it seems that we will never be given the finished film as originally intended, and it's all the fault of those damn Warner and Bond Company executives. This is without a doubt the biggest blunder that executive meddling has ever created in the animation industry. And those are the top 12 biggest executive mistakes in regards to the animation industry. Thank you for watching, but keep in mind, despite everything that I've said on this list, executives aren't bad people at all. Like the Onceler and the Lorax, executives are just trying to do their jobs in order to feed their families, which there is absolutely nothing wrong with. And as I mentioned before, they can make good decisions. But like the Onceler again, desire to earn more money can corrupt them and there can be huge consequences. What I'm trying to say is that executives aren't bad people at all, but they need to be stopped being so concerned with money and start paying attention to more important things.
Like me.
This is Jacob the Animation Critic saying, wait a minute, do you guys know what today is? It's my 2-year anniversary on YouTube! Hooray! What, nobody else gonna cheer for me? Okay, fine. Okay, to celebrate, I'm gonna do something I have not done before. I'm going to review a TV series. What TV series? Well, that's for you to decide. So tell me, people, what TV series do you want me to review? Nah, I put up with worse. This is Jacob the Animation Critic saying Happy 2-year to me!
I'm Dallas Rich Man, Mr. Texas Steve. People call me rich cause I got more money. I got more cheddar than some supersized nachos. Got cash flow like Robert has De Niro. I use more greens than Vincent Van Gogh. I make the baker bake my bread out of dough. No, don't eat it though, it'll make you ill. There ain't no flour in $100